Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming into from where are you coming in from, Matt, today? Oh no, hang on a second here. I don't have any audio for you right now. Somehow,
There we
go.
go. Check 2. Good to be back. I'm coming from Miami. I go between LA and Miami, but in Miami today.
Nice. Miami's always fun. Been there. Actually, the DJ Sessions, the actual conception of the DJ Sessions was born out of Winter Music Conference 2009. Is when I came up with the original conception of the DJ Sessions, and the rest is history from there. But hopefully the weather's all awesome and nice out there. A little nice out here in Seattle as well. But good to see you over here. You've been doing some traveling and stuff, and you got some recent shows. You tell our DJ Sessions fans, what have you been up to recently?
Yeah, I just got back yesterday, actually, so I'm still a little jet lagged. But I was in Europe for about three weeks or so. Started at Tomorrowland, which I wasn't playing, but I've always wanted to go. Heard amazing things. It was my first Tomorrowland, and it far exceeded expectations. So I had an amazing time. And then I played a show in Germany. I've been playing a lot in Asia recently. I played a few shows in Singapore and Dubai. Always kind of playing in and out in LA and Miami. So it's been a good amount of DJing recently, but also a lot of traveling and a ton of producing, trying to get a lot of new music ready.
I can understand now what it's like barely to be on the road and travel internationally after going to ADE twice and going to Germany last year and planning to go to Mexico for Dreamfields later this year, and going to those big festivals and those events, being on one side of the fence as a participant is much different than being on the back side of the fence and being behind the scenes and everything. If you could tell me, what was it like? Okay, I'm going to ask you this, and I know you're a stateside guy. If you had to choose between EDC, and I'm not trying to get you in any trouble, EDC or Tomorrowland, which one would you choose?
The age-old debate. Okay, I'll give you a couple pros and cons for each. The one thing that
Wait, before you do that, I've been to EDC Vegas. I have not been to Tomorrowland. So you're selling me on this, by the way.
I'll tell you the biggest difference. Difference. Because EDC is right next to Vegas, and I've been to EDC 10 times. It's my favorite festival. I played it a few times. It's right next to Las Vegas. So you have so many different types of people. You have people that are coming to party. You have people that are hardcore ravers, celebrities, everything in between. And that means that it's really exciting, but it definitely is a different kind of experience. Whereas I felt like when I was at Tomorrowland, it was 100% people that are there for the music. Because what I didn't realize is it's not in Brussels, Belgium. It's like in a town, another 30, 40 minutes out of the way. It's not easy to get to, right? So like there's not a lot of tables and access the way that there is necessarily at EDC. So it feels a little bit more like a throwback rave. Like the energy is really great. Production is incredible. But I think more than anything, what I loved about it is I just saw so many people being present and really just like no phones, just having fun, dancing. The energy was absolutely incredible. Plus Swedish House Mafia played a 3-hour set and on a side stage, not even on the main stage. And it was probably one of the best sets I've ever seen in my life. So definitely a memorable experience. I think EDC, for different reasons, has its strengths too. And both of them now are things that I probably will go to every year for way too long past my prime.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an agenda of mine to add more stamps to my passport. Tomorrowland is definitely going to be one of those that I will visit next year. Super excited. Somebody I'm working with Dreamfields this year in Mexico was there on tour and played, Jerry De La Villa. I hope I said his name right. Jerry, don't kill me if I said your name wrong. But no, Jerry is a good fan of the show and loves what we do. And we're super excited to be working with him, and heard about, everyone was over in Europe for the last few weeks too, doing their thing. I've never been to a massive like that. I mean, I went to EDC, but it was right after Pandy expired and was like opening up. My friend that I went with was like, you can actually see the pavement. Normally that's not normal. That's not normal at EDC. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm kind of glad I got to walk around and move around through people there. But, I was at Rave the Planet last year, and they were estimated like 350,000 people. I was there with the Riverside Studios crew on their double-decker semi bus truck and had never seen anything that massive before. It was just awesome. So, definitely the overwhelming experience. But I think when you go, when you're a seasoned veteran with this, you kind of go, you know what to expect, to get to the right gates, get to the right places. I'm sure you have a little bit of awesome access cloud that gets around things.
A lot of people can, probably relate if you're in the industry. Like you get a little bit jaded in a sense when you play a lot, and you also grew up. Like I was going to raves for, so many years now. I feel like I've seen and done everything in a sense. So I'm always looking for that fresh feeling that you got when you went to your first few raves or the first big headline festival you went to, where you were like, I can't believe this place. Like, we're always kind of chasing that feeling again. And I hadn't had it in a minute. And definitely Swedish House at Tomorrowland gave me that. They also did something really incredible called Symphony of Sound, where they have an orchestra playing top EDM hits with visuals, with a conductor. And they had John Martin, who sang Don't You Worry Child. He sang Reload. He had a bunch of big, massive hits. He came out and sang live with the orchestra playing. Like it was just incredible. So like, feel like those kind of moments, you can never predict them. You can never recreate them. When they happen, they happen. And so for me, the trip over to Belgium was well worth it, just for those few moments alone. But the entire festival is just incredible.
Absolutely. And speaking of track, that gives me a great segue into, you have a recent release that just came out. Love Where We Are, released on Night Drive. Tell us the inspiration behind that. What was, what made that come to fruition?
Yeah, kind of on the tail of what I was just saying, of really wanting to feel that sense of joy and inspiration that I felt in my early rave days recently. I've been producing a lot more melodic, electro kind of house, as opposed to, I was a little more tech house for a bit over COVID and stuff, and love tech house, love deep house, but I was really just missing melodies. I was missing uplifting chord progressions and vocals and lyrics that had that feel good kind of vibe behind them. And so going into spring and into summer, I really wanted to have a release that brought me back to that 2017 kind of nostalgic type of feel. And Brandon, who's the vocalist on the track, is an incredible singer. He has the exact right emotion and soul in his energy when he sings for the track. And so it was really just a perfect match. And Night Drive has been incredible to work with. This was my first release. I did one as a collab at the beginning of the year that went really, really well. And this is my first official one with them. So it was a great match, and the song's been really well received so far. People are loving it, which is amazing always to hear. But yeah, just wanted to get back to that feel good kind of electronic music.
Awesome. Yeah. It's, being, when you say get back to that original feeling, I started going out at 18 years old, to nightclubs. I mean, I may not look it, I'm 50, but, it was going back in the days in early 90s, when it was still underground, when it was, an amazing experience. And then eventually getting on the forefront, getting into the media side of things. But I remember the first rave I went to here in Seattle, it was called Green X and Ham. And, I saw my favorite DJ is a Seattle kind of legend DJ, you might know him, Donald Glaude, play. It was the first DJ I ever saw in an electronic underground music nightclub, but he was up on the decks, and the environment, the vibe was just, there was no click, there was no media, there was no social media, there were no cell phones. There weren't cell phones, and he mentioned that earlier. That's why I was like, yeah, no phones on the dance floor type thing. You were there and you were into the music, and the DJ was not a central theme of the event. I remember Donald was up in a balcony section with three, four turntables, still vinyl days. Yeah, I remember those, and playing down to the crowd and the dancers, the participants. I mean, you had multiple genres of people mixing that you kind of would never see come together in this electronic music environment. It was just so amazing. Yeah, getting back to that would be awesome. I know that the whole debate is, I've talked with a number of people about this over the years, of when you start seeing this on the dance floor. And then how do you read the crowd when people are like this? And it's like, when I went to Germany last year, I just actually answered this a few weeks ago on a thread on Meta or something. And, in Germany, they'll put stickers over your phone, over your cameras. If you get caught filming in the club, you're 86th. And if more nightclubs started to do that, yeah, there might be some backlash in the beginning, but really it's like, hey, nowadays they used to say when you go to a concert, no professional photography, no recording devices. Well, that was back in the day when you had cameras that took film, or, you had piece of crap 2 megapixel cameras. Who cares? Now you got 20 megapixel cams and recording devices. And it's like, yeah, I can go down the whole rant there.
It's a tough thing because, like I was in Europe all summer and a lot of people say like, oh, what city are you from? And I say LA or Miami. And so many people say like, oh my God, what's Space Miami like? What's, I saw that so-and-so was playing, right? So like even from the other side of the world, completely different scene because of those social media clips and those clips on the phones. These DJs have massive careers. The clubs have worldwide names. The festivals are at the, biggest that they've ever been. So it's a really tough line to toe. I think that it's a great thing to have in moderation. I love to occasionally go to a club that's no phones because you can't recreate that feeling. It's just a different energy when everyone is fully present. But, like a lot of DJs and producers, and I started in the dance world too, like I wouldn't have the career I have without people taking out their phones in my, dance workshops and my DJ sets in the studio and filming and putting things online. So, I'm equally understand, both sides, but it is great when you get a fully present moment to come back to.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I was trying to get back to, is that original rave feeling moment. I go out and I'm at a show and my phone's away. I mean, I know from a videographer standpoint, it's going to look like, well, it's not going to be professionally done. It may not look like crap, but it's going to sound like crap. And I always say, well, does anyone ever watch your recording of the fireworks that you recorded for 4th of July? No.
Maybe people do watch recordings I got one video actually that will forever cherish. It's Swedish at that set I was talking about. And I started like at the audience. I was up on the stage area and just panning, and it was like it's literally just a sea of people, and then the guys are on stage and everyone's just like, and
nice.
I put that up and everyone was commenting, like, oh, the nostalgia, I feel like I'm there. It's a rare one, but when you do get one of those, it's like it's great for people to be able to still experience it in some way that weren't able to be there, presently.
Yeah. And speaking of hearing a song on stage that really moves people like that, and you get that wave, that audience feedback of that you see that happen. What's one of the weirdest moments you've ever heard one of your own tracks play?
Man. I think that probably there was a track. This wasn't actually live, but one of my favorite experiences of having a track played was Armin Van Buren. He has his State of Trance live streams, and I've been a fan of Armin forever and ever. And it was maybe about 5-6 months ago. He was doing one, and I just happened to pull it up and be watching. And I was like, this intro sounds kind of familiar. And he's like, oh, yeah, today, we've got a new record by Matt Steffanina and Zach Martino is my other buddy on the track. And I was like, well, didn't necessarily nail the name pronunciation, but it's pretty much the coolest thing ever to have Armin open up one of his streams playing your song. So pretty surreal moment for me.
Absolutely. That would be, I could see that being like a huge honor and a huge success in the feather in the hat, people getting that recognition and like, whoa, that's cool. You have some tracks that are coming up too. Are you allowed to disclose who you're working with or what labels you're working with on that? I know sometimes that stuff can get hush hush and, can't say who we're doing anything with, the NDAs and all that fun stuff, but tell us about that.
We don't have anything undisclosable at this time, but I have another release coming up with Night Drive. We actually have like 3 or 4 that we're working on right now, so we haven't fully decided what's going to be next, but there'll be something in the next probably 2 months or so coming. And the last, I did a collab with Martin Jensen on the previous one. I mentioned my buddy Zach Martino. That was a remix that we did together. So I've been doing more collabs recently and really finding a lot of joy in it. I think that, one of the best things about music is being able to collab. And like I said, I mentioned I came from the dance world initially, and I always loved, even, you know, with other choreographers, other dancers, creating stuff together. And I feel like during COVID, I was producing pretty much solo for 3 years. I was just in a studio alone by myself. And it was great for the music project. It was great for releasing a lot of stuff, but it wasn't necessarily the most enjoyable time. At times it got a bit, you know, lonely, or sometimes I hit a creative block and you don't have those people to just kind of rally behind you, or, hey, you try something, oh, pass it back, you know. And I love that energy and that flow. And so lately I've been leaning a lot more into collabs. And when someone has an idea and they're like, I have this, I'm not sure where to take it, cool, send it over, you know. And that's kind of how a lot of my tracks recently have been coming around, or vice versa. You know, I have an idea and I just like, it needs something that your sound can fill, you know, and watching that come together and being able to share a project with someone in that type of way, back and forth, whether it's in the studio is even better. But, you know, a lot of us work remote these days, but I absolutely love collaborations. And same with vocalists too. You know, a lot of times I'll have an idea for the story or the energy of the song, but I'll fully trust them to just take it and run with it and tell their story in the lyrics. And I've definitely learned over the years to be a little bit less controlling over things, and find people that I love and I respect and I admire their work, and then give them the space to do what they do.
And how easy is it for somebody, if they did want to work on a track with you? I'm not trying to open up the floodgates or anything here, you know, but if do you take unsolicited submissions, or is there a vetting process, or a way that people would reach out and say, hey, Matt, I got this track, you know, does it go through a screening process? The reason I ask is we're still considering the idea of opening up a label over here at the DJ sessions and working with artists. But then I'm like, okay, now I'm opening up the gateway to everybody submitting me everything in the entire universe. And it's like, what do I take? What don't I take? Who am I to judge? What is good? What sound? What feel? What do we want to approach? Because, I mean, if I opened up to all genres, oh my gosh. And, you know, I got a team.
It's really important
how do you weed through who you'd want to work with on something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't too often just put out like an open call for submissions or anything like that. I do get people that'll send me stuff, and I try to listen to everything. I think most of the time it comes from either if it's from my side, I hear an artist that I really love their stuff and I feel like there's a good fit, or a vocalist, you know. And a lot of times I just literally Instagram DM singers and I'm like, hey, I love your sound. You know, here's a couple of things that I did that I feel like fit. Let me know if you vibe with it. And that's how my biggest track to date was Goodbye. It was with this singer named Sierra, incredible writer, incredible singer. And I found her stuff. My friend knew her, and I was like, yo, can you put in a good word? And, you know, a month later we had a song out. So sometimes it works really quickly in that way. And, you know, it's same thing when people message me. I always ask them for some of their stuff that's currently out. I think it's really important that, you know, there's a little bit of momentum, not necessarily in the sense of like, oh, you have to have big numbers or big following or whatever, but like that they've been putting some things out and they kind of understand the space and they understand what goes into a release. Because a lot of times people reach out and they're like, I haven't released anything yet. And I'm like, all right, what's your SoundCloud? And they're like, well, I'm holding off on that. And I'm like, all right, get the wheels in motion, you know, because it's really good to get those reps in. And I think what I underestimated a lot, and I'm still learning this, but just is what goes into not only actually doing a real release properly, but also what goes into promoting that song after it's out. And it's not just like, oh, for a few weeks up to it, we hype it up and then we play it out at shows and we do a couple things and then it's done. It's like, you know, in my case, I'm trying to limit to maybe like 4 to max 5 or 6 songs a year. So, you know, that's one every 2 to 3 months. So from 4 weeks previous to 2 months post release, like that's all I'm focused on really. And, you know, I'll still promote old songs and tease new ones and stuff, but like, it's really my mindset now, as opposed to 2-3 years ago where I was like, I just want to release something every 2 weeks. Now I'm really thinking about does this make sense? Is my audience going to love it? Am I going to be able to play this out? Is this something that I'm really, really excited about? So I'm being a lot pickier now. And that way I can put more energy behind each release, which has been for me a little bit more fulfilling than just produce, release. It was fun for a minute, but it got exhausting, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. It's interesting that I think people are getting a little bit more sense of that, what it takes to produce a track or what it means to be an artist with the advent of social media, behind the scenes footage, in the studio footage. And it's not just, oh, I can make a song too. I can pick up Ableton. I can make it. It's not just that simple, because you're just, like you said, at the aftermath of creating something is the distribution and getting it out there and promoting it and getting it in the right hands. I've had a lot of people over the years. It just had this conversation recently with somebody saying the barrier to entry to DJing is almost nil now. A 6-year-old can get up and get virtual DJ, or their dad or parents can invest in some gear for them. They can get access to all the tracks. It's no more vinyl or going to the record store. There's a limited press of those songs and tracks. And same with video production. I mean, you could say YouTube I was a broadcast television guy before this. And then, we were FCC approved on 13 stations with 8 separate television shows. And then YouTube came out. And now it's like everyone can be a producer, and I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. But are you broadcast worthy? Just because you can throw stuff up online doesn't mean you're there. It's a great stepping stone, a great point to work towards. And there's a lot of knowledge and resources out there for people to do that. But yeah, you got to kind of come with the package deal if you want to play the game. And that takes time and money. And a lot of people don't see that behind the camera, blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to make stuff happen. If you had to pick one of your productions, always a tough question, I know, because people ask me almost a similar question all the time, but I'm going to ask you that. If you had to pick one of your productions as your most favorite one, which one would that be? And is there a thought behind why it would be your most favorite?
Honestly, I would say the very first one I released is a song called I Need You. I put it out in 2020, right at the start of COVID. I mentioned dance earlier, but I was a choreographer for about 10 years. So I was always producing in the background. I DJ here and there, but I was touring with dance. I was working with artists. I never had the time to really sit down and take it seriously. And so when COVID hit, I was like, okay, this is a sign. This is my opportunity. And I started producing, but I didn't have the courage really to put music out. I was kind of like, I'm a bedroom producer and I don't want to blast this out. And I'm just not ready for the backlash. I'm not there. I'm not where I need to be. And so I probably made, like a lot of DJ producers, you make 100 songs to find one that you're like, this one's okay. Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. And I remember sending the song I Need You. I sent it to my buddy, Justin Blau, who's like an incredible DJ producer, literally everything you could talk about in music, he's A-list at. And I was like, bro, I want to get your opinion on this. And he's like, just put it out. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's good. It's done. It's good. Like, master it a little bit, like a couple cleanup things, but like, it's done. Put it out. And I was like, really? Like, okay, well, if he says it, I'm going to trust him. And I put it out. I did a little music video for it on YouTube and couple things, and expected nothing, and ended up getting picked up by some playlists. I think it's at like a couple million streams or something, with no label, no nothing, me just putting it out. And I think that the reason that one really stands out is because that was the turning point in my mind where I wasn't able to see it myself, but I went to I realized okay, I have put in the work. I've been producing for years. I went to Icon and learned how to produce properly, went to the school. I really did everything. I wanted to really understand it, but I was just being hard on myself. And that one small gesture from Justin gave me the vote of confidence. Like, okay, I was there. And then after that, every release from there, I made a song. If I felt it, I put it out. I really took his advice to heart. And I think that's one of the most important things as a creative, is that belief in yourself. And sometimes having someone else give you a little pat on the back is what can help you get over the edge,
I'll give a shout out to Jack and the team over there that arranged this interview. It's always, I kind of took an 8.5 month hiatus from last year off, but coming back into the mix of everything, having that support you just mentioned of people just even saying, it's good you're back. Oh my gosh, we got so much for you. is kind of that motivation that can definitely help pump you and go, okay, I'm back in the swing of things. So I want to give a shout out to Jack and the crew for arranging this interview. But I can definitely tell, you get that inspiration, and it's just that one pebble that turns into a landslide that goes down. It's like, whoa, it gives you that confidence to keep going. So congratulations on that, and definitely having a support team in the background that supports you and motivates you to keep doing things. You did talk about the producing the tracks. You did mention a hint, and I always love it when guests do this on my show, because I never send the questions in advance, so you don't know what's coming up. I like it like that. But you spoke about dance, and I know music obviously is a part of your career now, but it's also a central theme to your dancing and choreographic career. I saw a really awesome video recently, your workshop series that you do. I believe it was a video from, was it New York you were in recently and did something there?
Or the one from Germany, if it was just a few days ago.
Could have been. It was just a few days ago. Yeah, it popped up. I thought it was New York, but maybe it was Germany. I think you're right. It was Germany. So that's what caught my attention. Can you tell us a little bit about your workshop series and what you do there? Because that looks awesome. I might be a little bit out of shape to kind of get involved with one of those, but I'd love to go see it in person at least. Tell us about all that.
Live dance workshops are one of the most incredible events you could ever go to. And I think if for anyone that loves festivals and the energy that you feel at a show or a rave, it's very similar in a dance workshop, and I taught recently in Cologne, Germany. That was last week, and had about 350 dancers in a roller skating rink. We took over a roller skating rink and turned it into a dance studio essentially. And, when I do these, I always make sure to do both a beginner class and an advanced class, because while a lot of my stuff online is, more advanced and it's for professional dancers, I absolutely love people coming up and saying, this was my first dance class ever, or I was terrified to come into this room, or I never thought I could dance. I saw one of your videos and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. I love helping people get out of their shell, out of their comfort zone. That was why I originally started dancing when I was a teenager, was just to help my confidence and pick up a hobby and meet people. And then I fell in love with the art form. But I think that dance, the energy that you share with people when you're in a room, learning how to dancing together, it's just absolutely incredible, and we do a meet and greet after each workshop, and I get to hear people's stories of how they started or how far they've come. And it's one of my favorite things that I get to do in my career is teach dance, to especially to beginners and hear their stories. And it pairs really well with music. I wouldn't have ended up doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for my career in music. I actually started choreographing for Steve Aoki. I worked with Tiesto, Joyride, Slander, Nightmare, like a lot of the acts that are big in the electronic space. I came on as a choreographer first. And while I'm working with them, they're, talking about music. They're showing me stuff. They're telling me they went to this school or they did this thing or this really helped them in their career. And it was such a source of inspiration, and still to this day, I'm friends with all those guys, and they've just been such amazing mentors in the sense of like, no ego, just, I'm just a choreographer or whatever, asking them questions about their productions, and, they'll take time out of their day every time to help me out. And it's really incredible. I feel very, very blessed to have that. And, bringing dance and music together and being able to dance to my own tracks, or when I'm DJing, get people out there dancing, or come out in front of the deck sometimes and I'll dance a bit just to get everyone on the dance floor. It's really a perfect match. And so kind of at this point in my career now where I'm finding new ways to combine them. One more thing, but the recent show I did in Thailand, I motion captured myself, like I got in a mocap suit, and I made digital characters of me dancing, but I made like one was a giant gladiator guy, and then I made like a K-pop girl and all these different characters. And then during the show, I would have them on the screens dancing, but it would be me that was actually doing the dancing. And sometimes I come out and match them, and people were freaking out because they couldn't figure out how it was working and what was going on. And so I've done that show a few times now, and the reception's been really, really amazing. So goal is sometime in the next few years to get that onto a big stage with some screens and blow people's minds a little bit.
It'd be awesome to get some of your avatars made and then put them into our VR nightclub.
Oh, and you have a VR nightclub?
We do have a VR nightclub. It's called Beta Nightclub in VR chat. Actually, this interview is streaming live in there right now.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff going in our VR nightclub. We call it beta because it's our first version. There's a lot of ideas that I want to do, but unfortunately, it can get quite expensive when you want dreams to be built, even in VR. you know. But yeah, it's really sick, and we have avatars in there that do kind of robotic dances. We haven't gotten anything as technical as bringing in somebody who's motion done what you've done, but it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, and we plan to do a lot with our VR nightclubs because that was when you said that, I'm like, I wonder if you saw my finger go up going, I wonder if we could do something like that in our VR nightclub. That'd be pretty dope. Awesome. You know, and you spoke about the dance. My good friend of mine is a dancer. Has been a dancer for years, and she goes just to the local studios and does, you know, different forms of dancing. They'll put on a song, they'll teach it. I know she would love to take one of your classes. I don't know if she'd fly all the way to Germany, but if you ever do them stateside, you know, we could hook up. I don't know if you're ever on the West Coast. I think you said you fly back and forth between LA and Miami. You know, we're actually headed to LA.
LA is sort of the dance capital of the world, at least for hip hop right now. So I go back to LA about once a month or so, and I teach still there. So yeah, if anyone wants to come jump in a dance class, keep an eye out on Instagram.
I'm going down to LA for my birthday on the 23rd. So this month. You gonna be there?
23rd. Well, I leave for Burning Man on the 24th. So
we'll figure it out. We're flying in tonight. We're just doing a quick pop in, pop out for my 51st to go to Magic Mountain and the water park there. I love that theme park.
It's great.
You know. And so just bouncing in for that really quick. But hey, we're on the West Coast. It's a hop, skip, and a jump down there. I'm sure, you know, you let us know. We'll probably plan a trip and come on down, and I'll go to Magic Mountain. She goes to your dance class. Oh, I'll probably go to the dance class, do an interview with you.
Yeah, come on, man.
That sounds awesome.
I promise.
So out of all this, you said, you know, something else that got me while you were talking about working for those big names, Aoki, Tiesto, you know, being on stage and doing the choreography for them, that how humble those artists are and how much wisdom they can pass on to you. And, you know, in my years of doing this, I've also found that to be kind of a truism with these bigger artists. They're actually really approachable, really cool people, and really down to earth. You know, that ego is I've never met somebody, I don't think I've ever had anyone on my show that's ever come off overly conceited or rude, or, you know, they're more than welcome to tell and share their experiences of the industry with people who don't know them, 2 people that do know them, 3 up and coming people. That is wisdom, you know, that inkling of wisdom that could come out of something that you never know who you're inspiring the next day. It's pretty awesome. And you mentioned, you know, a note that you sent over was that you're honing in on your DJ skills. I mentioned earlier in the show that, you know, the barrier to entry of DJing is now you can go out and get a controller. I just literally posted about this on Facebook today. Somebody coming to the negotiating table saying, I'm a DJ. And I'm like, okay, great. That's your negotiating skills, that you're a DJ. What else do you bring to the table? Because if that's all you have and you have XYZ, you know, there's other acts out there that can bring more to the table than you can. So that really isn't a bargaining chip nowadays to say, I'm a DJ. When it's so accessible. And so, you know, you've been honing in on your DJing skills. What has that been like? How have you found the experience? Have you found has it been easy for you to jump into having a musical background? Everyone always says I should be a DJ. I'm like, no, I produce a show. I'm not a DJ. I just play one on TV. But you know, how has that been going for you so far as honing in on your DJ skills? Are you looking to take it past the mixing of tracks and get a little bit more creative with that, and anything in the works of mixing choreography and DJing into the mix, to build a show?
Yeah. I mean, that's really where my focus is at now is kind of what can I do to level it up, and what's unique about my music, my DJ set, all of those things that I can give someone a different experience, something to go home and talk about or get excited for the next show when they come to see me. I started DJing. Actually, the way that I started DJing is really random, but I was when I was like 17, I was working for this company, and they did, you know, when you have like a birthday party or a bar mitzvah or something, and they hire the DJ and then they hire the dancers, the party motivators, sometimes I think they would call us, and we would get people out to like do the Macarena and just like get people on the floor. And so I was doing that, and the guy that owned the company was like, you know, you're really good at getting people on the dance floor, and we love your energy, but we don't have enough DJs. We have more bookings than we can handle. So I'll make you a deal. If you learn how to DJ, I'll bump you up and you'll make way more money DJing than you do doing the dance stuff. And I was like, done. I bought a controller. This is, 15 years ago or something. And next day I was in there, I learned, and that was the start of it. And so I started playing corporate parties, weddings, all this stuff. And then that translated into clubs. And then when dance really took off for me, I kind of put DJing and producing on the back burner for a bit. And it wasn't until COVID that I came back to it. And, I noticed very quickly exactly what you're saying, that the barrier to entry, I can teach one of my friends to DJ well enough to go play a set in literally a couple hours. If they have some cue points and they, there's cheat codes to make it so you can literally play with zero experience. But obviously the art of reading a crowd and complex transitions is a whole nother level. But for me, I'm never going to compete with the guys that are doing 4 decks, insane transitions. That's not necessarily my strength. Like I can mix really, really fast. I can beat match fast. I've been doing it forever. That's great. That's enough for me on the technical side for the most part. You can always learn more. But what I really want to do is find a way to make my DJ set interactive in the sense of, yes, you're also watching visuals and maybe there's some dance elements and some things, but I want to get people to enjoy the set and I want them to participate in the set, whether that means putting their phones down and actually dancing, whether that means me doing some type of emceeing or dancing, whatever it is that brings them out of that space of I'm watching a show to I'm participating and I'm part of the show. And that's really my goal as a dancer that's sort of transitioning now back into music the last 6 years. That's where my mind always goes to is how do I make people feel the joy that I feel when I'm in a dance workshop or on stage dancing? How do I make them feel that in the crowd? And how do I connect with them from behind the decks so that we're all sort of in this together? And I've seen some glimmers of it. I definitely saw it with the dance concepts and some different MC things that I'm playing around with. So that's kind of where my focus is as far as leveling up on the I wouldn't say just DJ side. It's sort of like the full package of what the show and the experience is like.
Mm. And when you go to other shows, and I know this is probably a no-brainer, and it probably activates with you. I know it activates with me. My friend who's a lighting designer, it activates with him. When you're sitting there watching a show and you're watching the dancers on stage, you're like, I know who did that. I know who choreographed that, or I know that move, or are you analyzing the performance, or are you actually able to disassociate that and watch as a participant and take that business out of your head for a second? I do it when I watch video production. I'm like, there's a bad edit, there's a focus shot, oh, there's the boom mic, okay, I can see all this crap that probably people don't see, or it's like the DJ that sits there and listens and goes, that was a train wreck. I heard that wasn't on. I think if you do that, or are you able to turn that off?
If it's really well executed, I would say if it's at a really high level, I'm able to fully turn off and just enjoy it and I'm still a fan of dance at the end of the day, even though I did it for so long. I like anyone that works in a field for long enough, you have sort of like pet peeves and things like you're mentioning where I'm like, oh, guys, you should have just swapped and that person should be over there. And, if there's obvious ones, but, part of the thing that was great about leaving the professional dance industry the last 5 years and going to music is I really fell in love with it again, back the way that I had when I was first starting. Sometimes when you do anything professional, it becomes your income. And also just like from a competitive standpoint, I was the most followed dancer. And then I had the like highest grossing dance tour of all time. And I had these like sort of statistics that were stacking up, which I never set out to do any of that. But then when you do it, people are like, well, can you do a bigger one? Can you create more? Can you bring this? Can you do that? And you're like, well, I have this opportunity. Now I got to really take it and run with it. And then sometimes over a 5 or 10 year span of doing that, you can look back and be like, oh my God, I haven't taken a vacation in 8 years, and so I started to resent isn't quite the right word, but I started to fall out of love a bit with dance because I just sort of saw it as work towards the end. And then, COVID, couple years of break. And now when I go teach workshops and stuff, I'm just so happy to be there. I remember every bit why I started it, why I fell in love with it. And I think that the students and the viewers, whether it's on YouTube or wherever, they can feel that too. And so even though I don't post as much dance content these days, my pages are growing as fast as they ever have. I think that energy resonates through the screen.
Absolutely. What? How do you mention something in there? 8 years going, I haven't taken a vacation. I can relate with that. 35 years in the industry, 16 years on this show. And when do you take it to? When does the break ever happen for the mind? How do you balance your career with your other obligations in life? I mean, is it? I'm up at 6:30 in the morning, hit the check the emails and the socials and everything at 7, and I'm not off the clock. I try to pace myself. I'm done at 6 o'clock at night. Then it's making dinner time and doing all my stuff, and I keep my weekends open either for activities or trying to keep a mental balance there. How do you balance that? Is there a systematic regime that you have that says this is on the clock hours, this is off the clock hours, or anyone that you work with that plans your schedule for you? You use an AI or something in the back end?
What the heck? Man, it's a good question. It's a tough question. I'm not very systematic. I wish sometimes that I could be like, I start at this time, I end at this time. But the truth is there are times I feel like where you get a little spark of momentum, you get an opportunity, things are moving, something happens, and that window does not last forever. And so when I feel that energy and I'm like, this is working, I will still work 100 hours in a week and not sleep and not go on vacation, and I'll do whatever it takes. But I read the 4-hour work week, and I've read it about probably 6 or 7 times now because I forget it, and I'm like, okay, I need to remind myself. And the sort of the 80-20 rule, right, where like the idea is 80% of the things that you get, the achievements, the success, the growth, is due to just 20% of your actions. And the other 80% of your actions are kind of fluff. Like they're helping, but they're not necessary. They're not really moving the needle. And I really like, especially the last few years, once everything reopened and I started to travel again and tour again and all this stuff, I always have kept that in mind. And so, I'll do these sort of assessments where I'll look back at the last month, 3 months, 6 months, and be like, what is the one thing that caused the most growth? And maybe it's one series that I did where I was storytelling, or it's a type of song that I remixed that I made that went viral. And okay, let's do 5 more of those and let's scrap all the other stuff that isn't working, And by doing that over and over and over and over, I think that's why, like I mentioned, my growth is still really good on the dance side, even though I post a lot less. It's because I'm only doing the things that work. And I'm only doing the things that I want to do and that makes sense. And if someone's like, hey, can you fly here and do this and that, and I'm not 100% bought into it, then I'm like, no, sorry, I can't. Whereas earlier in my career, I would have been like, it's another opportunity. I would have just stacked them. So I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it. But I do think that a lot of times I see people and they'll get that one moment, that video that'll pop off, that song that'll hit, that opportunity, and they'll just kind of keep going as they were going. And I'm like, no, that's the time that you throw balance in life and everything out the window and you just fully lock in, and that's how everything that's happened for me in my career that I would say is like on a big scale was due to that. And the rest of the times where I was still working at the same rate, but the moment wasn't there, it was me trying to force it. And that's the time where I would have been better to be like, all right, let's breathe for a second. Let's get back on the meditation practice. Let's go take a weekend off. Like we're not missing anything. Get your mind right. And then when that opportunity strikes again, like that's when you go, But yeah, I say it, and then sometimes I still just, don't sleep for a few days. Working on
no, I can completely relate to that. I'm kind of I run an organization, but I have a team of people I work with. Just added it up the other day. I think I have like 14 different people that do different aspects for everything, but I'm the idea generator. And I usually don't task somebody with something to do unless I can do it myself. I mean, if I'm not going to go start coding websites, I don't do that. I hire somebody to do that, but I come with the idea of it and then work with them to make it happen. If that's just some back end stuff. But, there's times when I will literally hit like a writer's block or a wall with something. And I know that when I hit that, I have to say, stop, let it go, walk away. And I find I come back a day, 2, usually not more than a day or 2 later. And I'm obviously doing other tasks, but I sit down and I go to accomplish that task. And in 15, 30 seconds, I'm like, why wasn't this on my mind then? Because I'm just trying to pressure it and force it through and make it happen. If I just took a step back, took a breath, and went, oh, oh my gosh, it's working. Why didn't I think about that when I was in the mix? And those kind of things are just taking that step back from things. But you're right, going with it in the moment. You don't want to lose that momentum and lose that the forward momentum, or what I call positive mental influence, or there's another word. I use the term positive mental influence, or PMI. Always be keeping it positive in your mind of what's going to happen. Yeah, a fluent model too. Like, I'm the type of guy, I don't like stopping at a walk sign when I'm walking down the street. If this one turns red and this one turns white, and I know I got to get to my destination over there, I'm not going to stop and wait for this to go. I'm going to go across the white one, because then I get over there, the light's ended, this one turns white, and I'm continuing, but I'm constantly moving. Yeah. I'm not just standing there waiting for something to happen, and sometimes I'll jaywalk. Okay. Only when it's safe. Not endorsing that to the kids out there. What has been one of the best business decisions in favor of your artist career that you could say, if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, millions, is there one that stands out above all else that you could say, this was one of the best decisions I ever made, and I'm really proud that I made that decision? What would that be?
Yeah, I mean, 100% it's creating content and removing my ego around creating content. I think that, one of the gifts and the curses of being an artist is that we care so much about what we create and what it means to us. And I'll give a really, really tangible example. I was coming up as a choreographer, was very excited about being taken seriously finally in the industry. I was getting some opportunities. I was starting to be like, I'm really doing it. Wow. And so I was putting a lot of dance videos online, but it was always like my proudest choreography, right? It was my hardest pieces. It was like professional dancers dancing professional stuff, and lights and everything was filmed well, right? Like kind of like you were talking about earlier with the broadcast side, like professional. And one day someone was like, I have so much fun in your beginner classes. Like, why don't you ever post those online? And I was like, why would I post beginner choreography online? Like, it's easy. Who's going to care? Like, I don't know. It's just really fun. Like, I always have fun in your class. Maybe people would like to watch it. And I was like, okay, sure. Why not? What's there to lose? So I put it on YouTube, and that video got 80 million views and ended up being the biggest YouTube video that I ever posted in my whole career. And it is the most basic piece. I think I was teaching it to like 10-year-olds at some studio in like Boston. It was a random class filmed on like a crappy camera, iPhone 15. I don't even remember, before iPhones were good. And all the comments were like, I wish I was in this class. Can we get this guy to come teach here? Like, who's this choreographer? He's great, and it was just such a mind, I don't know if we can curse on the show, but to me, because I couldn't believe that I had been that off. Like in my mind, I'm like, people want this, and that's what I'm giving them. And I thought that I was there, and I humbled myself after that moment to be like, okay, I'm just me. I'm not the norm. I don't know. So from this point on, if I have an idea or someone has an idea and I can't say that there's a really bad reason to avoid it, then I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try it. Someone wants me to talk about something, do a tutorial, this or that, easy choreography, bad choreography, hard, like, I'm down. I'll try it. And that is the number one thing that helped me in my career, is just being willing to try things before I judge them. And then if I do it and it flops, 3 times in a row, then I'm like, all right, that maybe isn't the idea. Fair enough. But I'm always willing to take shots if it seems like there's potential there.
Awesome. You said something to me about that beginner video getting 80 million views online. Have you toyed with, obviously you do classes, have you toyed with the idea of doing anything online with like a class seminar or a subscription-based type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I paid you to ask me that question, but I do have a company. I have a company called dncr.com, which is literally learn how to dance online. And it's all online tutorials and everything. Exactly what you're talking about. For people that can't get to the studio, can't get to LA, it's great. We have a free week trial on there if anyone wants to jump on and learn how to dance a bit.
No, the reason why I ask is because, and I know you did not pay me to say that. That was not a paid promo plug in any way, shape, or form. I'm glad you brought it up, though. My friend that I mentioned earlier, who's the dancer that does the dance classes, she's also a Pilates and personal trainer, and she's using this software that's really kind of cool. And I'm not getting paid endorsement for this either, but I'm not going to name who they are. But it's really cool. She can go in now and do virtual sessions with people. They perform their workout, and then she goes back, and instead of being with them in the workout itself, can go back and give notes on the workout routine that they did. And rather than spending an hour with the client, they can spend 5-10 minutes to give the feedback to the client. And it was really cool. I'm actually one of our first beta persons to try it. She didn't design it. It's the company that designed it. The gym she works for is using it. But I didn't know if you had something like that also that could almost be a one-on-one session, or if you have a team of people you work with as well that could do that. It just sounded really cool of how advanced training, virtual training can get. And I'm glad you do have that. I should have gapped that in my research. It's kind of in my research out there, because it did lead me into.
I don't necessarily do a lot of one-on-one stuff, just because I'm always sort of maximize time. But I think that it's really amazing to be able to learn stuff online. I've learned literally almost everything I do now online. I think a lot of us have, and I think back to that example, for a lot of us, for a lot of people listening, obviously you're more on the music side, whether it's production, DJing, engineering, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter if it's dance or music or cooking, right? It's really the idea. And one of my songs that did really well, I used that same concept of, I was like, okay, I've been making these really complex songs with 100 layers and all these stacks and a million different things, and putting all this time into them. Let me just do a series where I just take vocals that I love and I remix them, and I give myself a couple hours to do it, and then I put it up on SoundCloud. And a few of my biggest remixes that went viral were from that series of just trying stuff. So for anyone that's out there that's really doing top-notch stuff, take a day to mess around. And what's the worst that happens is it doesn't hit, or it doesn't resonate with the audience. But I found that not only has it been really productive in the sense of it's performed well, but creatively it's really freeing too, to be like, I'm going to give myself the chance to just mess around and have fun. And this isn't going to be I'm not putting this out there as like, look at my work and how amazing it is. Like, I'm literally just being like, hey guys, did this beginner thing. It was super fun. Check it out, and watch what happens, what people respond. Sometimes it'll surprise you.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm always open to doing, like, our show started as, it came born out of a show that I was doing, another broadcast television series, and I had 8-9 separate television shows, and I tried to do a smorgasbord idea of putting them all on live streaming. This is my early days in 2009, and out of that whole instance, I found the easiest segment was to produce was when the DJ was playing in between, swapping out what the show formats were. Like, we had tons of stuff going on, but the DJ sessions, or the DJ part, was the easiest one to perform. And I was like, all right, cool. And now underneath the DJ sessions umbrella, we have the virtual sessions, we have the mobile sessions, we have the rooftop sessions, we have these different genres underneath the umbrella. It's like a project, that the silent disco sessions, the state of the industry sessions. I'm actually launching a new series that I just brought on a pretty well-known singer that's going to be doing vocalist, that's going to be doing interviews for us, that's going to still got to determine the name for that sessions, but I got the beats and eats sessions, all this crazy stuff, you throw at the wall and see what's going to stick. And people like watching a cooking show while talking to people about music. I mean, I'd be cooking with you, you're in your kitchen, I'm here cooking in my kitchen, and we're both making the same meal. And like, how'd that taste at the end of the day? It's like the beats and eats, and we're just still having the same interview format, but I'm crazy. Like, I'll come up with weird stuff, probably maybe it's already been done, but if it has been done, you heard it here first. So, I created it. But speaking of, here's something I want to switch to, because I think that's what prompted me, which was awesome. Again, I don't send questions in advance, but I'm going to ask you, how important is it for an artist to have merchandise available? And I know you have your merch shop. I went through it a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's dope. You got your own online store, your own thing. Do you think more artists should look at having some type of merchandise, at least a logo? We know that that's kind of a standard. Have a logo, have your name, just don't have an Arial font. This is my name. You know, you can go to Fiverr nowadays. I will promote them, not getting paid by them, and have somebody make you a logo for $50. Heck, you could probably have AI make you a logo for less than that. You know, but how important do you think it is for you to have merch, or an artist to have merch on their sites? The benefits of having that, is that a must?
I don't think it's a must. I think if it speaks to you, then it's a great vehicle to, you know, deepen the connection with your fans. I think that's really the main purpose behind merch. Obviously, it can be a really amazing part of your business too if it takes off. But I always try, like with anything that I put out on the merch side, to have some type of meaning, whether it's a tour shirt and it has all the cities and people are going to wear it, you know, for years to come and remember the experience they had there. You know, right now I launched a clothing brand that's actually separate from sort of me. It's called Mad Chill, and it's athleisure. We do a lot of stuff around mental health. And so, like, for instance, the hoodies on the inside of the sleeve on the wrist, it says inhale and the other one says exhale. And it's a reminder to just take a deep breath throughout your day, stay calm, kind of stay centered, stay present. And so that particular set, hoodie and sweats, is really based around that concept. And so I think if you have a concept or a tour or some reason to do it that you're really passionate about, absolutely, it's an incredible idea. But you know, if you're starting out and you're like, it's a lot of work, and do I want to just slap my logo on a t-shirt? I personally would wait until sort of inspiration strikes, or until your fans are asking for it. You know, if you have a cult fan base, it's just like, we want merch, like, give the people what they want, you know. But I don't think it's necessarily mandatory, especially when you're in the earlier to mid stages of your career, if it's not speaking to you.
Are you working with a designer to make custom pieces? Or the reason I'm asking this is we're getting ready to revamp our merch store. We have some products there. I wanted the product line. I wanted to put something out there so people could support the logo, help support the series, and that stuff. But we're really in the marketplace for looking for designers that want to come in and put their stuff with our brand and even their brand in our stores, and also incorporate our stores for guest artists that come on the series, saying, hey, would you like to cross and put your stuff into our online store? And that's a whole nother ball of wax to deal with, just like making a music store. I don't want to make a music store, but we're launching a new music section on the site, and royalties, payouts, that's a whole nother ballgame that I'm sure you're
all the fun stuff.
But do you work with specific designers? And if somebody had a design or a line that they wanted to say, hey, could we get this design in your store, and you could use that? Are you open to that?
There's a lot of ways to do it. You know, over the years when I was doing more just like my merch and I was doing one-off drops and stuff, there's so many sites like Printful, and there's a million of them where you can just design something literally on the site, upload your logo, toss it in. It's print on demand, or you order 100 of them, and they make it so easy. So, you know, if you're brand new to it out there, like, that's probably the best way to go, to just start out and do it really low risk, right? Once you get to where you're talking about, where you're involving a designer, a manufacturer, maybe making some custom cuts or sizings or whatever it might be, like designs, then it gets a lot more complicated. We're sort of in the middle. Our designs are obviously all original. I have a designer on the team that I work with to sort of get everything right and ready to send out. I come up with the ideas, but as far as the, you know, making fully custom garments, I'm mostly getting samples in from different manufacturers and trying them on and being like, okay, I like these sweats, but it needs to be more like this. Can you guys do it a little bit wider? You know, I'm not necessarily there with a sketch pad drawing things out. Not talented enough for that one. But, you know, for me right now, the most important thing is the fit and the quality. And so with Mad Chill in particular, we're thinking of it much less of like a brand t-shirt, and it really is its own clothing line. Like, think of, you know, Essentials, Fear God, and what they've come to be known for, of this like high quality athleisure wear. And so I love their stuff, but I have a slightly different take on it. It's that kind of a vibe, like a premium athleisure item, but it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. If you want to do a t-shirt with a logo, that's pretty easy. But as soon as you get into like quality and different fabrics and sizings and sweats, and then, you know, if you can't print on demand and you have to bulk buy, and then you're dealing with inventory, and there's a lot of things that go into it, which is why I say, when you're starting out, if you're just like looking to do something for some shows or whatever, print on demand is great. Keep it easy.
Uh-oh. Oh no, we broke up. Oh no, we lost transmission there for a second. That's why this is live and not pre-recorded. That's okay. We'll wait till Matt comes back online. There we go. Looks like it's slowly coming back online right now, but I totally hear what you're saying there, Matt. The work that it would go into getting up there and getting merch up there basically is pretty easy to do. I grew up with my father being a print shop. He owned a print shop, a screen printing shop. Well, actually a print shop and a screen printing shop as a kid growing up. So I remember getting all those samples in the house and all those things that got to see different types of clothing, different types of wear, and didn't know you had the opportunity to suggest clothing to people. There we go. Matt's back. All right, cool.
That was weird. I could still see and hear you, but you couldn't see and hear
That's
me.
okay. It happens. That's what happens during the live interview, and I pick up the ball and roll with it. No, I was just talking about how my father, I don't know if you heard it or not, but he used to own a screen printing business, and getting all those samples in and seeing all the different materials. And I remember when American Apparel came on the market, it was like the hottest thing, and it's like, oh, where'd you get that shirt? Where'd you get this? And it's like my dad would get boxes of samples sent to the house, and I'm wearing gear that's not even like in the stores yet and stuff. Wow. It was kind of cool, but totally know how that is. And yeah, it is kind of a it's a process, to definitely add that merch in, but definitely something there is there. I like to have it. Like I said, we're getting into the process of revamping our store and then expanding it to other endeavors as well. If there was one non-famous person that you would like to put into the spotlight, and other than your direct family or friends, who would that be and why?
For anything,
any
purpose.
Yeah, like if you could say, this person really would love to see them go here, not family or friends.
Oh man,
somebody's out there that's hot. That should be like next year's.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to get you in trouble here.
No, I just have so many. Honestly, I have a lot of people that are really incredible and doing amazing stuff. I mean, I definitely would have to throw my buddy Zach Martino in there. I mentioned him earlier. We did a collab. That was the one that Armin played out, and he's been in the game for a while. He's been releasing for probably almost a decade at this point. And a lot of people know his name. They've seen his work. He's everyone has played his music out at some point. But I feel like he hasn't quite got the recognition he deserves for how good his music is. So just give a shout out to my boy Zach. And if you guys haven't checked out his music yet, Zach Martino, he's incredible.
Zach Martino, shout out. Awesome. Is there something you'd like to say to new and up and coming producers to watch out for when it comes to making their career successful? A bit of advice you could say, hey, don't go open that merch store yet because you're not big, but just something you could give a piece off the wisdom tree there.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I wouldn't rush to open up the merch store out the gate. I think that the number one thing, I really would go back to what I was saying earlier about my biggest mistake of thinking that people didn't want to hear, or in my case, see a certain type of video. A lot of people will have opinions on how you should do the industry, how you should be a producer, how you should DJ, how. But if you do what they recommend, that's what's already been done. Everyone always recommends the path that they saw works the best, A, B, C, D, right? And it's not that it can't work. There's a lot of great advice out there, but I think it's just as important to also take shots in new directions. And if you have a weird idea or something crazy, try it. Like, send it. There's never a better time to try all your crazy, stupid ideas than when you're starting out, because there's no risk. Once you have a label and a manager and tours and shows and people are relying on you and you have a sound and all those things are there, now you have pressure. Now you have, some guidelines that you're not able to get outside of as much. You don't have as much freedom. So when you're early and you're starting off and you're like, man, I don't have all those things. Like, the upside of you don't have all those things is you can do whatever the hell you want and nobody's going to tell you anything. So if you want to drop a tech house song and then drop a dubstep song and then mash them up into like, do whatever, just go for it, and maybe you'll find something that'll work that nobody's done before. And at the very least, you have the great advice that you got from everyone else of ABC to always fall back on. And I kind of do both at the same time. I'm sort of building the traditional sense and trying to do the smart things. And when I have an idea, I'm just like, all right, let's take a break and do this real quick. And that's the number one thing I would say for anyone starting out.
Well, something I like that you use there, the ABCD. The pathway does not always go A, B, C, D either. Somebody's B, it may have been your Z, or somebody's, Q might have been your A. And once you culminate on, then you start going into the numbers. Like I think what you said, I think the pressure starts to happen when you get all those A, B, C, Ds down to Z, and then it goes, now I got responsibility, like you said, to maintain those numbers, because now there's expectations, and those numbers mean anything from viral views to dollar signs to gigs to wherever it is. And those numbers are time constraint numbers. How much time do you have in the day to do everything? But you're right. It's just never, you never know what your path is. And I just had a post today on Meta and socials that said, hey, somebody's trying to come to me and tell me how to run my company, when a lot of people haven't really done. Yes, they've done online streaming, they've done online shows, but they've never done something that what I'm trying to accomplish. So you can't come up off the table and tell me you should do this, when first of all, you've never done it. You're not in the industry I'm in, and you're giving me a suggestion. I'm like, no, dude, this is why. And I've talked to industry professionals. Why don't you work with us, see if it works for you, and then say, no, it doesn't work, rather than just criticize and say, change your format. Change it. And it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and I'm laying out new foundations here for something that there is no model for what I'm going off. There's no playbook. There's no 4-hour work week book that I'm reading going, oh, this is it. This is my to-do list. This is how it's been all done and accomplished, that being said. But yeah, it's definitely, a process, and you go through no one finite, clear way, path of doing it. Question for you. I always love this one. We're wrapping up here really quickly though. If Hollywood made a movie about your life, who would you pick as the main actor?
Oh man. Currently, or can we say time doesn't matter?
Time doesn't matter.
All right. On the flight back from where was I yesterday? Budapest.
Just a flight from Budapest the other day.
I was like, I know I was somewhere else yesterday. I watched a few movies, and one of them was Troy, the throwback. And Brad Pitt in Troy is such a gangster. Man,
yeah.
Can I get? I mean, I don't quite have like the the jawline and the hair exactly, but like, can I get a Brad Pitt from Troy to play me just for the clout?
That would be a good one. Brad Pitt from Troy, though.
Yeah. Because he was
Brad Pitt from Troy.
He was big. He was taking his protein for that one.
You sure there was no CGI in that, like 300?
Yeah, there was no CGI back then. Shout out creatine.
Awesome sauce. No worries there. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you go?
No, man, I really appreciate the time, the interview, and hopefully I see you guys either at a show or maybe a dance class somewhere around the world.
Absolutely. Where's the best place people can go to find out more information about you and what you got going on?
All my social media is just at Matt Steffanina, so probably Instagram is the one that I update the most with shows, and look at that. So this is professional stuff right here. Probably Instagram is the best. Yeah, at Matt Steffanina, and especially if anyone comes out to a show or whatever and takes a video, I always try to be really active on there and reposting people. Love seeing you guys engage and enjoy the shows and everything. So yeah, I would love to connect more.
Awesome, Matt. We'll definitely want to try to hook up with you in person here somewhere around the world. I know you're a busy guy, and thank you for coming on the DJ Sessions today. We always like to follow up with our artists. We'll probably hit you up in a few months. I know you've got something going on that we're going to want to talk and let our fans know about. But again, thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions today. Yeah,
amazing, man. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on, that's the wrong QR code. I want that QR code. Find us online at thedjsessions.com. All our socials are there. We got over 700 news stories a month, live interviews, exclusive mixes. We're launching a new music section where you're going to find artist tracks and more at the DJ sessions, syndicated shows coming in. There's just a bunch of stuff. You're going to come there in the morning, come there in the afternoon, come there in the evening. It's going to be something different for you at thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darran, coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in from Miami, it's Matt Steffanina.
There it is.
I got it right. Awesome. For the DJ sessions. And remember, on the DJ sessions, the music never stops.